from the Ghetto is a virtual event supporting people needing relief from a war on their lives and legacy. But this ghetto is one you may not know as well. Music from the Ghetto is a global virtual event supported by the Tour for Tolerance. Bill Tinglin is the founder. He has roots in the Jewish community and is here to talk about the efforts to help Ukrainians and educate people about that country's history with Jewish ghettos. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you so very much, Renee. Thank you.
Well, tell us about this Music of the Ghetto virtual event.
Well, this event is taking place on June 26th. Back 80 years ago, the Nazis captured, arrested, as you know, killed 6 million Jews. And many of the people, Jewish people, they were musicians, that is. The Nazis took them into Czechoslovakia, a concentration camp that's called Tarensy. Why? Well, because they were musicians. They were showmen and showwomen, conductors, violin players, fantastic musicians. And they put all the musicians there specifically because they wanted these musicians to play music to serve the Nazis in this ghetto concentration camp. So on June 26th, we'll be having Professor David Goldberg will be playing the music of Tarensy. Why? The name of the concentration camp at that time was called Tarensy. And the funding or the occasion or the opportunity that we're doing all this for is to assist, to help the people of Ukraine.
Bill, how did you come to be familiar with the people of Ukraine? Have you visited there?
Yes, yes. A Holocaust survivor by the name of Samuel Bykov. 54,600 Jews were massacred in Ukraine in a place that's called Bogdanovka. Renee, I stood on that blood-soaked ground in Bogdanovka. Holocaust survivor Samuel Bykov and I, we were walking on that blood-soaked ground. And in doing so, I hear a voice in my head somewhere somewhat saying, make sure that this doesn't happen again. I looked up and I spoke to the Holocaust survivor, Mr. Bykov. I said, did you hear that? And he says, no, what did you hear? And I told him what happened. He held me on my left elbow and he says, son, we have work to do. The purpose why we were there is to honor the people who and their family who were massacred back in Babi Yar. There's about 37,400 people were massacred, Jews, were massacred in less than 2 days by the Nazis. But this particular moment in Bogdanovka, we were planting trees to honor the 127 people who survived that massacre of 54,600 people. Mr. Samuel Bykov was one of those 127 persons who survived. He is what is his mother, his father, and his sister. Why? Well, it was a Christmas season about that time. And the reason why these 127 people survived, the Nazis ceased the murdering and the killing on that Christmas day. So they were able to escape by the liberation of the Russians who came in and liberated them a few days after that.
And there were people who were killed who were not Jewish. Tell us what you know about that too. The Nazis did not just kill only Jews. They put other people in it too, people who were supporting. What do you know about that from your experience?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Bogdanovka. In Bogdanovka, you had the Ukrainians who helped the Jewish people. They were also sent to the concentration camp. You had homosexuals. You had gypsies. You had Jehovah's Witnesses. You have people who were considered to be mental. They were all placed in the Baghdad concentration camp at that time.
When you left, what stuck with you when you left Ukraine? Clearly, it was quite a disturbing and moving event for you as you talk about standing on once blood-soaked ground. What to this day lives with you after that visit?
That's a fantastic question, Renee. This is what lives with me even now. Knowing that Holocaust survivors have gone through the atrocity 80 years ago, and now that they're reliving the same thing with artillery, with someone from the right, the Russians, now invading Ukraine a second time. Because they did it 3 times, 2014 and prior to that, back in the 1940s. What stuck out most is to experience what the Holocaust survivors experienced 80 years ago. I became a part of that emotional feeling that they experienced there in Baghdad. In total, what the 6 million plus Jews, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, gypsies, what they've all gone through, knowing the experience that the Russians are now bombing a country, to see the atrocities that's taking place, the women and the men, the mothers, the fathers, and the sisters, what they are going through, reflecting back before I was born, when the Nazis were reigning. So we have a double whammy. Holocaust survivors experiencing all this a second time, and me, a person of this era, experience vicariously what they've gone through back when I was there in September and October, and to be by the side now of Holocaust survivors, to hear their message about the atrocity that's going now in the Ukraine. It's very, very sad. It's emotional. Respectfully, Renee, I do have sleepless nights.
Tell us about the concert. What can people expect at the online concert, and how do they tap into it?
I would love for you to please visit the Tour for Tolerance website, tourfortolerance.org website. And what you'll experience is Dr. David music, playing the music of these Jewish composers, what they wrote during the time in the ghetto, in that concentration camp, the music. And Dr. David is going to take you back musically to that era, for you to be able to feel the experience, what was going on during that time. Reflectively, he's bringing it to life, to life. So we as Americans and people from all over the world that will be visiting this, I ask of you, please visit our website, tourfortolerance.org, plug in, become a part of this new venture, raising funds to help the children, the Ahmadi Hospital there in Ukraine. All the funds and proceeds that received will go directly to to help the cancer hospital there in Ukraine, and also to help the besieged people in Poland and other countries, the 5 million people who have left Ukraine to go on to all these other countries. And we really want to help. And this is one means of helping them.
Tell us other programs, what other things is Tour of Tolerance involved in?
Well, there are less than 35,000 Holocaust survivors here in New York, and less than 400,000 worldwide. And the mission that we are here are doing, we created, it's called the Tour for Tolerance bus, in which it's very difficult for students to leave their school, to visit museums, to visit certain places. So we created this bus through a partner. It's called the Shua Foundation. And the bus itself will pull up, let's say, to your school, Renee. You have 500 students. Prior to getting to your school, you would already have the curriculum. On the bus will be a teacher, a Holocaust survivor, possibly a liberator. It's a retrofitted bus with holograms, interactive technology, artificial intelligence. Moreover, all these students will be able to meet and hear the story of a Holocaust survivor before they're all gone. In doing so, these students will be able to see and to say, well, I learned something today. I met a Holocaust survivor. And this is what they said, and this is what we could do to create change, to make things better, to make the world a better place to live and to enjoy.
Bill, we have a Holocaust museum not far from Sarasota in Manatee County, Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg. Now, I understand that you have met Jennifer Teague, who has visited Sarasota and St. Petersburg in recent years, and even just a month ago here in Sarasota to talk about the Holocaust. She's the author of a book. You said you know her. Tell us about your experience with her.
First of all, I was trained at the St. Petersburg Holocaust Museum there. That's where I got much of my learning from, at that Holocaust Museum. A few years ago, we brought Jennifer Teague to New York to speak to large audience in television and interviews all around New York City in regards to who she is, what happened, what transpired. Here we have a German African-American woman who her father their grandfather was a Nazi. He was in charge of the concentration camp there in Poland. He, the commandant's daughter name was Ruth. And she had a relationship with an African, and Jennifer Teague was born. She was given up for adoption. Jennifer Teague thereafter, some years, went to Israel. She speaks a few different languages, to have had discovered that her grandfather was a Nazi. You may remember him. He was in the Spielberg movie, Commandant Zoitz. He was the one who he shot many of the Jewish people, and he used his German Shepherd to fetch them. You may remember him. That was Jennifer Teague's grandfather. Jennifer Teague has enlightened so many ears. She has educated, influenced, and empowered so many New Yorkers in regards to her endeavor, using the power of empathy, compassion, inclusion, tolerance, respect. Fantastic lady, and I wish we could have her in New York once again.
What's the one thing that struck you about her story? And again, we have heard, some of us had the benefit of hearing her here in Sarasota, but it is such a poignant story, a Black woman who is born to an integrated relationship, one of which, again, it turns out that she is the descendant, granddaughter of a Nazi. But what struck you about hers? We've got just 30 seconds left, but would like to hear what struck you about her story.
Her empathy, her level of communication, how she was able to merge who she is in conjunction with who her grandfather was or is, how she represents now tolerance, empathy, compassion, inclusion, combining the spirit of love harmoniously.
All right, Bill, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you in Sarasota or Suncoast very soon. Thank you for what you're doing.
Indeed.
All right.
Thanks so very much, Renee. Thank you.